but I'm telling you, you want to be the best kept secret. They go, hey, you're working on this guy. And I go, his name's Heinz, and I would go, okay. They go, and the son of the boss, this other guy goes, Ryan, do you know who that is? I go, I don't have a fucking clue, man. I think I went to him like, I don't know who this guy is. He goes, he's a Super Bowl MVP, I think it was, or something major this year. And I go,
like
okay.
a Pro Bowler, wide receiver for the Steelers.
And to be clear, I was only working on him because my boss was my mentor's out of town. It wasn't like, he's like, I need the master. It's like, no, the master's out. Now you got the second team.
You got the hunchback in the corner going, my little
I'm
kitty.
just trying not to fuck up. I'm not some like self-made person. I had so many good people help me out. Because I think you just got to show people you got a few things: good heart, good intentions, and hard work. Oh,
love it. What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Esdohr. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening or watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Today we are welcomed by my neighbor and friend, Ryan Esdohr. What's going on, man?
not much. What's happening?
Very cool. So we're not just going to talk about everybody's lawns and the neighborhood, like weird stuff.
Listen, I got some real bones to pick with the HOA.
Right.
I'm just kidding. We don't have one.
Those damn kids like leaving their tricycles in the street. No, we're not going to talk about that. Today we're talking about business, marketing, a bunch of stuff like that. So Ryan is a sports therapist. Mm-hmm. So you're basically like a massage therapist that specializes with athletes, right? So tell the folks a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Ryan Esdohr. I own a shop, I like to call it, studio shop. I just call it shop, called Superhuman Lab. It's just me working on injured people, helping them troubleshoot their injuries or performance-related issues. So it's funny. I'm not even a big sports fan. Never have been. I watch it if I have somebody who's in it, but sports is not my passion. Just working with people who are really obsessives. Like for me, myself, I'm an obsessive personality. It's one of those things like, my early 20s, I thought I needed to do a bunch of meditation, yoga, and fix it. And I realized my obsession is my strength if I can channel in the right direction. So just working with other obsessives, that's really what I like to do. So
it's super awesome. Yeah. And I'm really excited about this conversation because so for those that are listening, not watching, we are also another round of bourbon in it. We're doing old fashions.
Old Fash.
With the orange peel. And our bourbon of choice today is Four Roses, not Bullet. So
now to be transparent, we started with the little Bullet, ran out, and now we're on Four Roses, which I'm excited about because I don't get a chance to drink a lot of Four Roses. I was saying my father-in-law is a big bourbon guy, so he's shown off a few things to me, but Four Roses is one that's not in his cabinet. Okay. So I'm excited. That's why I'm gonna finish this completely before I tap back into that so I can really get a sense of it.
Love it. Yeah, so yesterday, I guess this would have been a week ago for those listening, but we had Dylan Mankey on the show, and we started with a full bottle of that Bullet bourbon, and there was maybe a sip left when we started today. So you can say the interview went probably 2 hours after we stopped recording, and we just kept talking and kept drinking, so it was a fun time. So.
Are you saying there's a chance one of our wives is going to have to grab us?
Yes. I cannot neither confirm or deny that both of our wives called us and were like, when are you guys coming home? Like, we're still recording the podcast. So this is just a front for my alcohol addiction. That's all this is. So, but no, really excited. I think there's so much stuff about your story, too, that's fun, and we'll dig into it in a second. But, I mean, you've worked with, like, the top-tier professional athletes from, like, Dwight Howard, Team USA for the track and field, like so much stuff that I think is going to be really fun to kind of dig into because you're just a guy from small town Iowa. So it's just kind of cool to see people from a small town going and doing these things and kind of you can really just build your career from anything. So I think it'd be a really good time to just dive in. Like where would you say your story started when you started thinking about becoming a massage therapist and specializing in athletes?
Let's dive into the origin story here.
Love it here.
So in short, I was really bad at high school. And it's important to kind of preface it there because I didn't go to a 4-year college. In fact, it wasn't even on my radar, nor did it even feel like an actual option. So I was an art kid growing up, really into punk rock music.
What kind of bands were you listening to?
Rancid,
okay.
NoFX.
Were you playing like Tony Hawk Skater 1 back when
dude. Come on.
I
had a mohawk at one point. Oh. I was definitely that kind of like, my son's like, Dad, were you emo? I'm like, I was punk rock. He's like, yeah, you're emo.
Sure.
So, but really I wasn't thriving in school. And so eventually I met a girl who I now married. That's probably what really put my wheels on the right track, going, hey, she's smart. She has her shit together. Okay, cuss.
You can guess.
Okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
She has her shit together. And if I want to hang out with her, I'm going to have to do something. So I really started pulling it together. But then again, college seemed like a very far option because I really did muck around quite a bit. And I also didn't know what I wanted to do.
Because how old were you at this time? And you weren't in college, were you? You were just college age?
I did like blue collar jobs. You know, I've had a job since I was 12 years old. I grew up in a restaurant industry with my parents were heavily involved in restaurants. So I grew up very fast in the back of a kitchen, which me and my brother did, and I loved it. Like people would be like, I've worked since I was 12. No, it was awesome. I mean, just that getting the exposure to very mature things at a young age has taught me a lot about people. Because, and again, it taught me a lot about people because a lot of times, I mean, when you see a waitress in back counting money to really buy, basic supplies, and they're 19 with a kid, you're like, dang, you better tip good if food's good.
Sure.
Or if service is decent, you give them a tip. But I wasn't going to say. So I lost my train of thought.
So you were college age. You were dating
your
wife,
yep.
and you were trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life.
So and then I just went up to Iowa City to party. I had a friend up there, and so we went up to Iowa City to party. And my buddy was working as a strength and conditioning coach. He was like in an internship for the University of Iowa, the football team. And it just it hit me like a bolt. Like that's not it, but I know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have to work with my hands. And I don't know what that means, but I know I want to work with my hands, and I know I want to work with athletes because I felt there was something about this. Again, goes back to like this obsession that people were having of just the day-to-day, hard work. And it just kind of hit me. So I said, okay, I got to figure this out. So you look, it's like, okay, you can become an athletic trainer, a chiropractor, or a physical therapist. And my mom was actually like, Ryan, what about, my mom didn't like that, but in your head, when you're 19, it's like, Ryan, what about a massage therapist? And I was like, no way in hell. I'm just imagining myself. Imagine like a 40-year-old, and I'm 38 now, so now I can really imagine it. Mm-hmm. Imagine a 40-year-old massage therapist. And I'm like, is that not a creep job? Like, it just sounds like a dead end. But I met a guy named Brian Glotzbach. He was traveling to Iowa to teach a course. And the owner of this massage school, my mom goes, just go meet this massage school place. I said, okay, I'll go meet him. And they go, hey, you should come next week. This Brian Glotzbach's teaching a class. Check it out. And at this point, I'm working at a Harley motorcycle dealership. And I said, okay, I'll check it out. And instantly I was like, whatever he's doing, I want to do that. He was living in Atlanta. He's from Chicago. He had a first career as an engineer doing skyscraper stuff. At 37, he's like, I'm going to work with athletes. And he went this route. And when I met him, he had a contract with every single Atlanta team. And so I'm thinking like he was very in with the baseball, hockey at the time when they had a hockey team, basketball and football. And on staff for, I think damn near all of them, maybe not hockey, but I think he was on staff for sure for the Hawks and for the baseball, the Braves. And so I said, I'm sorry, Hawks. And no, I'm sorry. And the Falcons, I think he had Falcons, Hawks, and possibly even Braves, which for one person or one company is like insane when you think about the population of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And so I knew, I'm like, whatever he's doing, I want to do it. So I said, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm going to study with you. And he's like, absolutely not. And he goes, I've done this before. He goes, no disrespect, basically, but I've been burnt. And I was like, oh, this is happening. I am coming. And I was really, really persistent. And I think this goes back to a lot of my stories. I'm not some like self-made person. I had so many good people help me out because I think you just got to show people you got a few things: good heart, good intentions, and hard work. And being from Iowa, that's pretty easy. Like I've worked in the cornfields and did all that shit. So it's like having to work hard was not the hard part. But I went down there and he's like, listen, I'm not gonna give you money or anything. He's like, I'll teach you. And so he kind of set me up with a job with his friend, and I worked there. And I would go to his house, bang on his door, give him a little. That's my ASMR piece. and
wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And he would just teach me stuff, and it really took, as far as my base knowledge, it took, in 4 years I was in Atlanta, it really gave me at least 10 to 15 years of growth. I mean, mentorship was so massive. And he wasn't the only one. I had some really good people. And that's why, like, even now I'm really passionate about mentoring therapists because it happened for me. And honestly, he made very, very, if any, he's probably made less than $200 off me, maybe $3, definitely under $5 in his life. So the amount of like pay it forward I feel like I owe from that is pretty massive.
That's so cool. Because I mean, you look at like traditional education, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have went chiropractor school, gotten out in 8 years, PT school, which is basically becoming a doctor.
Right.
But you saw this kind of the pathless traveled kind of I always see like there's these two freeways and you're like, which one do I get on with my car? And then there's like some guy that's like, come with me through the woods on this gravel path that's overgrown with trees. There's like, you'll get to the same place. Like, walk me through the decision to do that, because a lot of people think, oh, there's riches on the other side of becoming a PT or a chiropractor because you make a bunch of money. When you talked to Brian, did he like disclose with you like the success he had just being a massage therapist, or was it more of like I see the level of clients he's working with and I just want to be like that?
This is a good question, because initially when I made the decision, it was also very financially motivated. I didn't have money. Mm-hmm. So like to be putting myself in $80,000 to $100,000 of debt, it just, to me, it was like against my religion. Like I don't have the money. Why would I spend the money? Again, going back to being raised by my grandparents, they're farm people. And, it's one of those things like you've seen when a farmer buys everything on credit and then it hits and then you're really on the downside of it. I have a grandpa who reuses tinfoil. And he's probably high on the financial horse a little bit more than most because he's just very frugal and works hard. So that probably is kind of in the back of my mind a bit. But one thing Brian told me was, Ryan, if you're a massage therapist, because he's like, let's make no bones about it, call yourself whatever you want. You are a massage therapist and you are the lowest on the totem pole. If you can handle that from an ego point, you can help a lot of people. And I thought, hell yeah. And so that's the real thing I tell people is like, you have to have a temperament or an ability to buffer that, because you're going to run into people who whether it's through intention or not, they just are kind of mean about it.
Right.
I've had PTs be kind of mean. They kind of look down on you a little bit. You just have to, have a mentality that you can buffer that.
Sure. So you get to Atlanta. He lets you, like, you knock on the door. He answered at some point. Maybe you slept out in your car a couple nights. Like, hey, man, can I like...
Oh, I harassed him.
He's filing a restraining order. You're like, I'm just here to intern for free. So he takes you under his wing. How was that ride, and what was that experience like, kind of tapping into that community?
It was, again, going back to like any professional athlete I've ever worked on, it really goes into the amount of people who've helped me out along the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, truly, that's where, again, when they say don't bite the hand that feeds you, or, what's that book, The Laws of Power, don't outshine the master. All those things, I think, are very important, because I would say I built my career early on, especially off, like within the first year or so, I was working on professional athletes. And I'm maybe a year and a half out of school. And one of my things I would do is I had no clients at this office. So me and him didn't work at the same office. He sent me out with his friend, and I worked at his office. So I get in there, I have no clients. So all these massage therapists are there. It's a chiropractic massage therapist kind of thing. And they have like all cool stuff like hyperbaric chambers, a lot of pro athletes come through, but I had no clients. And so what I would do is when I wasn't working, which was I pretty much wasn't, because when I went down there, I sold everything I had. I sold my motorcycle. I paid off all my debt. And I just took my car, blow up mattress, got this like kind of, I wouldn't say shitty, but it was very different than where I was in the Iowa apartment. And so I didn't have much money. But when I was at the office, I would help out the front desk girl. I would just like help her file stuff because she was like so behind everything. Mm-hmm. And not behind, but she had a busy job. So I would help her. And so eventually, and she was this real Southern girl, and she'd be like, athletes would check out. She was also kind of cute too. So do not make sure the wife doesn't step on her.
Right, we'll cut that.
But she was a very cute Southern girl, and the athletes loved her. Mm-hmm. And so when she come through, she'd be like, hey, now have you seen Ryan? Oh, and they'd be like, no, I don't know. He's the best. You got to try him sometime. And so they just saw and then that kind of helped me a little bit. So very quickly, some of the athletes started like really navigating to me. And then the bosses, I wasn't there long, but I think they also realized like, I'm going to make them look good, not bad. And I'm going to be a fun hang. So they probably looked at me going, let's bring Ryan on the road to travel. He works hard. He's not trying to, he doesn't have some massive ego trying to, I'm very temperament. Hey, of course, you need help, be helpful to him. And so they took me on the road with them pretty early. So then I got to do the real travel stuff. So I was kind of like just running the laser at first. So my mentor was doing the therapy, chiropractors doing their job, and I was just running this like laser thing. And then eventually more guys would come in. They go, hey, Ryan, why don't you put the laser down and help me out? And I would eventually get to where like I got to be like B team. And then I got to go with another guy. And we just traveled around and went to, Cincinnati, Washington, D.C., I would even do a down and trip back to one of the Steelers running back. I would just go down to his house, fly out, and fly back the same day. So that was really cool. And the big thing was I had to be in Atlanta for these opportunities because a lot of the guys live there in the off season.
Oh, sure. Well, there's a big population of like you said, there's 4 or 5 sports teams there, but also just like a lot of people live there. So a lot of people probably have second homes there or whatnot too.
Massive. And it is one of those cities because a lot of when you think about the football talent of the SEC, a lot of these guys are from the South. Well, if you're from the South and you kind of want to be near home, Atlanta's a great place because the airport, you're always going to be able to get a ride home from the airport if you live in like Alabama or North Carolina, South Carolina, or you're 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from all those spots. So it's just a perfect center point. I loved it. It was great. But then once we had kids, it was like, okay, there was a time where it was time to come back home.
Sure. So at that time, was your girlfriend, now wife, was she with you that whole time? Did she move out to Atlanta with you, or was she staying back here while you kind of went off and started this whole venture?
She finished up. We were 1 year apart because she was at Drake finishing up her degree. And then once she did, she moved down there to Atlanta.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So walk me through the process of like when you got to the first, what was like your first big client you worked with or had to fly out to, and you're like walking in like a pro athlete's house, like, oh shit, like I got my little bag and like
Well, you know what's funny? The interesting thing is that again, like I don't know these guys. I'm not a sports fan. So I remember one guy, and I can say his name because they took pictures with him. So a lot of times I'll be, unless an athlete takes a picture with us, it's kind of out there, I really try not to say people's names because especially in the injury zone, because there's people I've worked on that I don't say because they're going through an injury and they don't want people to know about their injury.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
There was a lot of great messaging I got. Again, mentorship helped because they would say, Ryan, I know you're a young guy and it'd be really cool if these guys kind of co-signed you, basically. But I'm telling you, you want to be the best kept secret. And so there's times where, again, I just going back to it anyways, but Heinz Ward was a guy who, they go, hey, you're working on this guy. And I go, his name's Heinz Ward. And I would go, okay. They go, and the son of the boss, this other guy goes, Ryan, do you know who that is? I go, I don't have a fucking clue, man. I think I went to him like, I don't know who this guy is. He goes, he's a Super Bowl MVP, I think it was, or something major this year. And I go,
he's like a Pro Bowler, wide receiver for the Steelers.
And to be clear, I was only working on him because my boss was my mentor's out of town. It wasn't like he's like, I need the master. It's like, no, the master's out. Now you got the second team.
You got the hunchback in the corner going, my little kitty.
And I'm just trying not to fuck up. I remember we'd be at airports and you put so much pressure on yourself, and I would you'd fly out game day. So you'd be there the night before, and then the day of, like sometimes they even come through right before you hit the game, which was like really cool because there's be a moment where you can see some of these guys hits this like mental switch where you kind of read the room like, okay, like it's not dabbing up and it's not the same chatter and fun. It's like a lot of like silence. They're listening to their own music and they're kind of like getting a little ready. That was pretty dope. Like to watch people make this mental switch of like, now I'm in a different mode. That was pretty dope.
That's really fun. Yeah. And to see an athlete, I mean, even just like my high school times were like that, where I might have family, like you said, try to come through and talk to you like 20 minutes before kickoff. It's like, get the hell away from me. Like, I'm in like killer mode right now. Like, you don't like understand because people are just like, oh, it's like a fun game. It's like, you don't understand. Yeah. It's been like sitting in a dark room for an hour, just like thinking about what you're going to do and stuff. I can only imagine like a pro level of that.
Well, and you just go, and that's, again, I just followed the lead. I was lucky enough that I knew when to shut up, I think, to where I would just kind of follow the lead of the guys who are, I mean, these guys are 50, 60 years old, late 50s. So they've been doing this for a while. And when I could tell they were starting to kind of not talk and just work, because sometimes when I work on people, we talk a lot. I'm asking questions, I'm getting feedback, and you could tell this is a time not for that. And that was it was pretty cool to see those switches. And even in my business, I think it's also sometimes having like these alter egos or knowing when like you need to flip the switch and like be in this professional mode. And I don't mean professional as like stuffy business, but like it is go time. You know, you gotta have those moments a little bit. And I think that's kind of like, it kind of rubbed off on me a little bit watching that.
Sure. Well, I could see you completely squander your opportunity by doing what you said that your mentor said not to do, which is like, hey, look, guys, I'm working on Heinz Word. Like, book me today, whatever. Like, I'm sure if they saw that, the athletes being that person that saw it, they'd be like, dude, now ESPN's doing a report on me about having a knee injury, and I was like not even being reported on, and now like I might not get re-signed by like it's like that could just the like collateral damage of that could be just catastrophic for some people.
And I don't think and the things that rub off on me with that, I don't think to this day, because I've had a few mentors who have different beliefs in this, and I don't think either one's wrong. In fact, the ones that are a little better at marketing, sometimes it helps. But the guy who brought me in, again, because he's a massage therapist and I am too, I just follow his lead a lot more. And I don't think I've ever asked for an autograph or a picture, ever. I really don't think I can think of a single time where I've ever done that. Now, sometimes you're out and about and they take a picture, or somebody else goes, "Oh, get in and then take a picture." Then it's like, it's awesome then. Now it's like, now I'm definitely going to use that.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's like you don't want to, that's got to be the least professional thing ever is someone's trying to get body work done. Yeah. And you're like, man, I just got to get my leg working better, blah, blah. And you're like, hey, man, can you sign this football for my daughter or something? It's like, I guess. And then now they're just like in a weird spot where they're just like trying to get work done. You know, that's got to be.
That's why I keep going back to be the best kept secret. But then when I think about that, it's also like on the flip side of it, it's now that I'm back in Iowa and I still do like to do travel work. I still like to work with pro athletes. These guys don't know who I am. I've been at Atlanta for, 12 years. I'm 38. I left when my son was 6 months old. He's 13. So if I want to continue to do that work, I do need some omnipresence. I need people outside of Iowa to know who I am to continue to do this on any scale. Mm-hmm. It's cool to work. And again, it doesn't really matter who's on the table. It's fun to do the work, but I've really wrestled with this a lot last few years. And if I'm just being honest, I do like to work on professional athletes. I like a little more pressure. I like a little more intensity. It's just how I'm wired. I like to drive things to how far can we push this? And also like you go into a place and, I think there's a trust factor too, when everybody's going out there trying to figure out what's wrong with this person and and then you don't say it. I think that's just like, I don't know. I like stuff like that. I don't know if it makes me feel like John Wick or something. I don't know.
Sure. Well, it's like, it's got to be kind of a cool feeling. Like I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to this guy's house. Like I have a sole purpose of like, I'm going to work. Like this is like a cool kind of moment of importance for you. And like, you're like, this is my sole purpose is to like fix this person's ailment.
Well, you just made me think of something that I haven't thought of. It is, I do like being on a mono mission. When I'm back in Iowa, I've got 3, 4, 5 clients in a day I have to like manage. And I have to be like, oh shit, did I text them back? It's kind of a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful for it. It's how I make my living. But it is nice to be on a mono mission going, okay, is this a hip, an ankle, a neck? And then just diving in deep to research, reaching out to people I know going, hey man, what do you know about this injury and this injury? And just really obsessing. Again, like I love obsessive things and you get to obsess over a thing.
Sure.
I tell people that like when people pay me a day rate, you're paying for your problem to be my most urgent problem, mm-hmm. right? You're paying for me to make your problem my problem, or make your urgency my emergency, as you would say. That's what they're really paying for. And I do like kind of biting in on something like that.
Sure, that's super cool. Yeah, and I think just the like you said, digging into the problem, trying to figure out, like you said, making it that's my sole purpose and sole focus, which is really cool.
I always tell people like I'm a maniac on a mono mission, and I like when people are on that same mission. Like it's just you just kind of click with them. Like we're both in this. It's just like you're in that groove.
Sure. Oh, I love it. That's great.
Part of me's like, oh, so pumped.
Yeah, I'm getting like fired up. Like
it really does. It fires me up.
Eye of the tiger. Like we're going wild. So I know you mentioned like you've worked with a bunch of big names. We've worked together outside of this podcast. So like I know some of them. So I'm just going to start spouting them off. But are there at least like teams or like other people besides Heinz Ward that you have mention that you've worked with, just so people can get understanding, because it's not just one. It wasn't a one-off thing. It was like you've worked with other types of athletes that are like the top of their game. You know.
Yeah, people are always like, "Who's the biggest name you worked with?" And I always say the biggest name that has shared it on his social media, so I can share it was I did in 2015. We did work with Dwight Howard for his preseason, and so we went to China and Dubai and met some great trainers. And again, that was made through my connection in Atlanta. I lived in Iowa at the time. They said, "Hey Ryan, we got a little job for you. You're gonna fly to Vegas real quick."
Little job.
In and out, in and out. And I said, "Okay, let's do it." And then I was getting ready to leave. I said, "Hey, appreciate you. Best of luck." And then one of his people reached out and said, "Hey, I think he wants you to stay on for a little bit in this preseason." So I just went back and forth to Houston. And actually, we actually ended up, because I knew this was a job. I was like, you got to, again, like be a professional. So I didn't drink. Like, this is Vegas. I've never been to Vegas. I didn't have a single sip of alcohol until the job was done. I'm at the airport. Saw a Heineken, drinking a Heineken, feeling good about it. And then it's a beautiful day. The plane's going down. And then they ended up pulling up because of bad weather.
Oof.
And so...
Had that happen. That's like the scariest feeling.
Well, I wasn't on this plane, thank Christ.
Okay.
Because I'm terrified of flying, by the way.
Sure.
I have a major fear of flying. I've made scenes on an airplane.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be like, what's it, Ben Stiller in that comedy where he's like, I want to put my overhead luggage up here.
There's the guy I traveled with, shout out Dr. Zeller, and my wife, and also my wife, they both have said, "Hey, I'm not scared of flying, but you're making me very uncomfortable right now." Because I'm just like, "Do you feel that?" But they pulled up, and it was kind of the reference to the stories, because he said, "Hey, we're leaving for Dubai in like very, very soon," and so I had to get back to Iowa to get my visa, my passport, and so long story short, I had to fly to Minneapolis, drive at like 2 a.m. to Iowa, and then got to Iowa, kissed my kids, maybe slept for an hour, and flew to Houston. And then the next, passed out in a hotel room. The next day we went to Dubai and did all that. So it definitely has given me a lot of cool opportunities, like stuff like that in the career. But that's probably the one that I think people are like, holy shit. Because, when somebody like a big name posts, they see a picture of you on their social media, all my friends from Iowa were like, what are you doing? But those were cool too. And there's so many guys that I even keep in touch with now, and they're retired, and it's just, it's pretty cool.
Sure. Well, and you've said like other, like in terms of like teams, you've mentioned like USA track and field, like Atlanta, or not, obviously Atlanta teams, but also like Baltimore Ravens, like types of people like that.
Cincinnati, we actually did the facility, which we usually work for the players, not the team. It's a pain. So I'll give you somebody who's in this industry. I'll give you some game. If you want to do this work, you want to work for the player, not the team. There's too much red tape. Mm-hmm. The amount of times, even at a college level, where like I've done team stuff, I had to fill out like all this paperwork and background checks and like non-disclosures and all this stuff, versus you fly in for a guy and you try to make it work. Like, hey, you bring your friends in. And again, you got to be a little business savvy. Like sometimes that's one thing I work on. Is like, hey, if you fly me out, I can sweeten this deal up, but like connect me with more people, and we'll make it cheaper in some facet.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're already in the house, like, hey, have your other teammates come and we'll like just do a bunch of them.
No, I'm terrible at that. Mm-hmm. Like asking for like, hey man, I'm like, bring them on. Mm-hmm. I'll take care of you guys. That's one thing I really need to work on. Like, hey, just write that down. Yep.
Well, and I think because I've been watching the Quarterbacks series on Netflix.
It's great.
Amazing, like kind of insight on it's Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, and the guy from Atlanta.
Hawaiian kid.
Yep.
They're talking about.
It'll click in my head in a second. But Kirk, it was interesting. Like he has a husband and wife PT crew that comes in. They just knock it out. They just help him every time, and it's like. Now he's gotten them on a literal national stage. There's like millions of people that have watched that series. We're refilling ASMR. Love it. But I think that's interesting just because you think those people working for the team, working for a hospital, we're owning their own clinic, like a stationary place, not I come to your home on Sunday or Monday mornings and work out all the kinks from Sunday from game day. It's like, it's a very like obviously very hands-on, but very niche service that you I provide this, I come to you and I do the body work, and it's like ultimate convenience. obviously you'd want to charge higher than having them come to you. Like I'm flying to you, doing that type of thing. So
Well, and that's the big thing is they're paying for convenience. So it is just like, I assume what it'd be like to be on a movie set. It's hurry up and wait. You know, and by the way, when you pay a day rate, there's no complaint to it. It's like you may be like, oh man, I'm getting hungry. Should I go out? Like what if they call? I can't sit at a restaurant. So yeah, you got to plan around it and feel it out. But when they say it's time, it is on their time. I mean, they're paying for convenience above all. Yeah, it is a lot of hurry up and wait though.
yeah. Well, and I've also seen like videos of like personal chefs talking about and it's a very similar thing where it's like
very much
my entire purpose of existence is like feeding this family of 6 people 3 square meals a day. But it's like either grocery shopping the day before, or you're there cooking all day, and then once they finish dinner, you're doing dishes and you go home. It's like, well, shit, now I got like 2 hours of me time, then I got to go to sleep and do it again. It's like when you're waiting on people at that kind of level, it's very involved process. It's not just like you said, oh, I'll come for an hour or 2 and then go get lunch and come back. It's like I am there for you the entire time.
Oh, the amount of cities I've been to and I've never seen the city. I mean, truly, you go from airport hotel and you stay within a proximity of that hotel the entire time because they might come. I mean, it depends how you hook it up. If they come to the hotel room, which is what I usually do because it makes it just a little more locational. And sometimes, again, like you're in somebody's home. Some guys want you in their home. Some guys are like, nah, just come to you somewhere close. But you got to be within a proximal location for them. So the amount of times I've just fly into a city and go to a house or a hotel, airport and home, that is what it is. So the allure of it, the sexiness, wears off extremely quick. You know, and then you start missing your family and kids. But you know, at the end of the day, it's what you do.
Sure.
You know.
Well, and I think it's interesting to think about because have you ever had? I mean, you're a massage therapist. You're like licensed massage therapist.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a licensed massage therapist. So when people are like, "What do you say?" The reason why I say sports therapist because I don't want people to get the interpretation that you're going to come to the office, lay down, and I'm going to rub boo-boos, right? So that's where like when people think of massage, they think of just like kneading, rubbing.
I lay here and you just rub me for an hour.
Yeah. So I have no shame about being a licensed massage therapist. But when I say massage therapy, whatever like picture they have in their head is often not very identical to what I do.
Sure.
So if I say sports therapy, they know, okay, it's going to be something of that, which is also why social media helps for me because you can actually see what I do. You get a vibe of what I exactly do, and either you want it or you don't.
Sure.
You know, I'm not here to sell something to people that they don't want it or need it. You know, either you do or you don't.
Sure. No, and I love that. And I think it's interesting because have you when you're working with those top tier people like Heinz or whoever, did anyone ever like ask for your certifications or like they're just like, can you help me, right?
Yeah.
Can you fix my ailment?
Yeah.
It's I don't care what school you went to, where your degree's from, if you even have a degree. It's like as long as you can make me feel better and not hurt me further, it's a good situation.
Well, and now you get clients too. And this is where like you can rub people the wrong way, and it's truly not your intention at all. But like I have clients walk in and be like, Dr. Ryan, and again, I do not claim to be a doctor in any facet.
Yep.
In fact, I resource my friends who are actual medical doctors all the time. Mm-hmm. Hey man, quick question. You know, buy them some bourbon or something to bug them. But yeah, even now I have a couple guys, Dr. Ryan, and it's just more like, it's just they just kind of feel comfortable and nickname you a little bit. But no, that's the other thing too is like once you prove your worth in the results that you create, people don't care who you are. You know, a lot of times my job exists because people have gone and they've done chiropractic, physical therapy, they've done these things and they're still having a problem. Mm-hmm. And so that's, for me, I really have to come at things a different direction. I can't just recite the same thing and expect people to pay me more or to come see me. I have to do something different, right? So again, like being into punk rock as a kid, I'm naturally non-conformative to things. And that's probably why I took this path a little bit. But it's also a great resource if you want to utilize my services because I'm going to come at this different angle. You know, I'm pretty... it's non-traditional, but it's also what's the word I'm looking for when things are casual, or I would say, you know, like for the longest time, somebody told me, "Hey Ryan, I was going to do some work at teaching, and they said your cursing's a problem and we don't want to utilize you. And I said, I can understand where you think that. It just is what it is. And I really stuck to my guns on this one. I thought about not, but I stuck to my guns with it. And long story short, every time I get a teaching thing now, it is a nice little internal fuck you.
Yeah.
Because when somebody says, "Hey," and because he also mentioned I don't think you'll be successful if you continue down this route. I find some of the ways you present yourself to be unprofessional, the way you dress is unprofessional. Because I wasn't wearing khaki pants and a polo shirt, and I said, I can understand why you think that way, but it is. I've made a decision. This is how I'm gonna operate, and so sometimes you have to make those calls too and run your own business, and you got to also sleep with those calls too.
Sure. Well, and it's kind of I mean, not swearing like a sailor left and right, but just being authentic. If you do that normally, just be yourself. Like same thing with this podcast. Like I don't want you to have to try and like censor your thoughts if you're just trying to explain or describe something. Like I'd rather just be yourself. So I think people are coming around to just being authentically themselves, and that's why they would hire you to come teach, is because you have a unique perspective. And if adults can't like just get over the fact you said a cuss word and like just move past it, you know?
But also, if you want to do these things, don't wait for people to like certify and hire you. Do it yourself. I mean, if I want to teach, I'll teach my own thing. I'll host it myself. I'll pay for it myself. I'll do it myself, and come and check it out. I don't need to wait for somebody to ask me to hire me. You know, that again, that's the thing, is like when you go a little more rogue down past, you can't wait for people to hire you. You have to create opportunities yourself.
Yeah. No, I love that. So you're traveling, doing the crazy thing. Your wife and you end up moving back to Iowa.
Yep.
Walk me through like the decision to do that, and then how you navigated starting Superhuman Lab.
Yeah. So when I ended up moving back to Iowa, I thought, I've worked on so many professional athletes. I'm thinking I've probably worked on over 100 by now. I mean, who wouldn't want to work with me? And you realize nobody cares. They care, what can you do for me now, today, not what you did 5 years ago, 2 days ago. I don't care who you worked on. Truly, it made zero impact on my business. So when I came to Iowa, I actually started, I was really into yoga too, because I'm trying to also realize that soft tissue, hands-on work, it's not everything. I need some movement-based tool. So in my search for it, I got really into yoga. So I actually took a little breather when I moved back, and I opened a place called Iowa Powered Yoga.
Oh wow, nice! I didn't know this.
I don't tell about it because it gets a little embarrassing, because I was so broke and I made no money. I basically told people, pay what you want, don't pay at all. I mean, I wasn't even running a business, because I was in my 20s too, and it was so fucking dumb.
Sure. Where was it located?
Know better. Not far from, you know where I am now?
Yeah.
Like literally across the way.
Okay.
Same location.
You, like one studio where you like a certified yoga instructor?
Yeah, I'm a certified yoga teacher.
Yeah,
oh,
man.
I've done some wild yoga stuff. Like I was telling somebody the other day, they're sharing how they got into something, and you could tell they couldn't tell if it was like too weird. And I go, hold on, I did some really weird commune style yoga stuff before up in like Catskills, New York. I've done meditation retreats at Buddhist centers, and gosh, I've really dialed into or went in that route. But I realized at some point I was like, okay, I need to get back to what I do, which is being a sports therapist. So it's kind of funny too how you sometimes have to kind of habits or like talent stack. So I love movement. It's a big part of my life. I do jiu-jitsu now. I even incorporate jiu-jitsu into my manual therapy training, right? So all this stuff that I thought were like massive career mistakes of like, when you're not making money, you feel like a massive fuck up, especially when you have kids. There was a long time there where, I made no money. We lived off my wife's income forever doing this stuff. And to think, when is it going to freaking turn the corner? And just having, really good friends who are further ahead of me going like, just keep going, like refine, keep going, refine, keep going. Some people be a little more honest, like, you're definitely fucking up. You need to like get your shit together a little bit and like kind of hold a standard to what you're going to do here. So how was that conversation with you and your wife? And then also just because you have other influence, like father-in-law, mother-in-law, like friends, whatever, like what was that like? And what was there like a turning point or an aha moment where you're like, I have to get my shit together? I mean, you mentioned that with like when you first went to Atlanta, you're like, okay, I met this girl, like she kind of expects a little bit more. Like it sounded like that's kind of a driver for you. Yeah.
Was there like an aha moment or when people were weighing in on your lack thereof, the success?
Yeah,
What
it was
that like?
it was really the only people who gave me any advice is when I asked for it. Really, and those were friends of mine who were business owners. So my buddy Brian Kaldenberg, God, we've been friends forever, and he was an entrepreneur when we were like 17. You know, he wasn't making fake IDs. Wink. he's a very entrepreneurial guy. Like I can't say that word, entrepreneurial. Is that the bourbon or is that I can't taste?
It's a tough one. I can't spell it. I can say it, but I can't spell it.
So I resourced him a ton in trying to figure things out. But honestly, the one turning point, if I had to really think about it, I read a book called Essentialism. And you just realize how much when you say yes to every opportunity, at some level, opportunities are distractions. And you got to get back to this mono-focused route. Even now, like I still need to go back and refine it and go, hey, how many things am I a little distracted with? I need to get more mono-focused, tighter. And so the whole book about essentialism is that, like, realizing that things that look like opportunities are actually probably distractions. And you need to get focused in. That's probably when it started to kind of turn, especially the last year after COVID. COVID sucked. Anybody who wants to be like, hey, I know COVID was tough, I'm like, listen, I owned a small business during COVID, and the amount of like bitter internal conversations I've had about it, I don't see a lot. How about this? I don't see a lot of silver lining about COVID.
Sure.
On a small business.
And your small business was literally putting your physical hands on people and being on top of them, next to them, like within a breathing distance of them. So that would be really tough. So
yeah. So getting through it once, but again, like it does build resilience. Like you got to, at some point, you have to stop bitching and blaming. And there are things like, listen, when the government shuts your business down, that is out of your control. But you at that moment need to think about everything that's in your control and go, you can complain and bitch all you want, it still ain't going to make money. And that's where it's like, okay, we got to do something. We got to rebuild. We need to start focusing back on business.
Sure.
So I had a little pity party there for a little bit.
Sure. No, I totally get that. So you're doing the yoga thing.
Yep.
You have a yoga business that's not successful.
Nope,
it's
not at all.
Like you said, pay what you want. It sounds like you're running a homeless shelter. It's like put some change in the jar.
I was donating money to like causes and not making money. Like people think it seems like really nice. Like that's a dumb move. Like you have no profit and you're giving away money that you don't have. I mean, it's the dumbest shit ever. But I was very idealistic in those days and not focusing on profit. You know, if you want to own a business, realize like, you want to run a profitable business, and if you consider yourself a good person, you want to run a profitable business because you can't do philanthropy. Thank you. Gosh, philanthropy. If you don't have money, and so that's where it's like we need to really not be unapologetically profit driven,
sure,
so that we can help people.
Well, dude, I think that's such a powerful thing because I know a lot of people in my life that complain about capitalism all the time. It's like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't understand. Like, you complain about capitalism, but you also have a job. You work for a large corporation that pays you a nice fat salary and gives you benefits, and you benefit from it. So it's like, once you understand that if you're a part of it, it's like, don't hate the player, man. Hate the game. Like, you just got to get better at figuring out how to do it. But also, to your point, if you make more money, yes, that is selfish if you increase your income, but also you decide what you do with that money. You can get braces for your kids. You can go on vacation to Maui. You could give it all to your church, whatever you want to do. Like, you have complete control of that. So don't like get mad at people for just taking advantage, you know?
And another hard point was I raised my prices pretty dramatically once. I went from, first I charged $85 and then $100. I went from $100 to $140 an hour. And I was really like, oh God. I mean,
I was talking to you during this decision because you were like, I've been weighing this for like a couple months because it's like, you don't want to like up your prices and lose all of your clients. Like, what was that?
Well, and you have this internal dialogue. Does this make me a bad person? But then when you think about it this way, going, okay, doesn't everybody who has a salaried job expect a raise? And I haven't given myself a raise in 7, 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, zero raise.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a point where the inflation is getting higher. So my actual gas, my toothpaste, everything goes up in price. And I'm still like, nope, I don't want to do this. It was a hard decision to make. And I remember feeling like the best advice I got was from a friend. I said, hey, man, how do I handle this? He goes, here's what I would do if I was you, but do what you want. Where are your prices right now online? Because most of my clients book online. It says, let's say it says sports, I'll just say sports massage so people can get the idea. Sports massage, $100. He just put sports massage, $100, parentheses, 140 as of, and then insert date. He goes, just that. I go, oh shit, what about like a newsletter? He goes, Ryan, when you justify it, you have some like guilt complex with it and you're inviting criticism. He goes,
like you make a big deal about it, send a newsletter, call everyone, hey, prices are going up, and then like,
all you have to say, I tell people, if you ever increase your prices and people ever say anything about them, all you have to say is this, wow, that's pretty expensive. And if they kind of go like, why is it so much, whatever, be like, that's what when people who work with me, that's what they pay. That's what the people who work with me pay. That's it. And you just let it be. And people go, okay. Like nobody ever, by the way, nobody ever complained. Now I would say you will drop out at probably it probably is a rule of thirds. You do drop out a third of your clients.
But you just increase by a third.
That's the problem.
So you're working less and you're making the same amount. So it's like, boom.
And I would say that was a turning point with actual like, profit. Like not just, there's also a book called Profit First. That was a bit. Have you read that one?
Yeah.
It's really complicated.
Did I give that to you? But I have a whole YouTube video on it. I love that book. I implement it in my life.
It's so helpful. I'll give you guys the gist because you can it's like counting your macros. You can find your own way with it. I don't have like the 2-bank system like they suggest. But what I did do was have multiple accounts, delegate certain money to it, and then make sure you take out profit first. So then at the end, you can actually pay yourself. If you're not able to pay yourself, then you need to look at your business habits and behaviors. Mm-hmm. Boom, done. That's kind of like the gist of it.
Yep.
So you can kind of customize it and tweak it a little bit, but having just separate accounts like OPEX, which is operating expenses, having like an OPEX account, boom, done. Like, and I've really kind of like dialed in a little bit, but it does help to go. And that was one of the things, like at the end of the month, the amount of work I would have to do to like pay overhead, which is it's more than just like utilities and rents. Like, oh, this month you owe $245. I'm like, for what? They're like, insurance. This month, they're just random like 200-300 things you get dinged with every freaking month. And so if I didn't change that profit issue or that number issue, all I did was actually gave myself like just enough money to profit. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it did. Like it was a massive, massive thing. I think making your prices appropriate to your work. And again, I also look at like, I do so much education and go to courses and fly out to see people and spend a lot of time in my career and then go, I won't raise my prices. I mean, you go to a doctor, they're all just for even like walking in the door, they charge you $300, $230. It's like, yeah, we're going to do something here.
Sure. No, it's great because so in my business, I've been doing profit first, but to your point, I tweaked it a little bit to mine. So I do percentages. It's like 25% is operating. So I get $100 in the door. I can only spend 25 of that on like running the business.
Yep.
And like 40% is for owner strokes. Like I have to pay myself 40%, which is really hard for me because you're the opposite of me. Like you love spending money. I'm the opposite. It's like
I love spending money.
I cannot do it. And it's like there's been months where like I'll talk to Paige, I'll have like a really good month, and there's like way more money in my owner's account where I need to pay it out to myself. And I'm like, well, I should keep it back. She's like, pay the damn money out. Like that's what the whole structure is for. So I'm like, okay. So it just depends on like how your structure works. But it sounds like for you that really helped to have like a structure that you could lean on, and then just like I'm just following this like as if you were a W-2 employee. Like, okay, we get paid every month out of this account. This is how it works,
And one thing we're going to start doing, I talked to my wife about this, is I'm going to be stricter with myself because I can get real nutty with, especially like I'm a big food guy. I can spend so much money on food. It's crazy. Is start to really dial in the expenses so you can see, I want that dopamine hit of watching the profit go up. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to treat ourselves. Sure. Like I'm going to go to Kansas City for a weekend and we're going to a nice ass hotel. I'm going to that like $240, $250, $300, $400 hotel. And that's the other weird thing about stuff is like, if you don't grow up with certain things, it doesn't enter your psyche. And then you just go, well, why would I ever pay this? Even my father-in-law, he does pretty well for himself. He still is kind of the guy who's like, I would never overpay for a hotel room. Why would I? Versus I think sometimes you need to celebrate your wins because you can take for granted how goddamn hard this is to win at this business game. So sometimes you got to give yourself like, hey, not doing so bad, man. You know what I mean?
And treat yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Go get a drink. Go have a staycation. Go get the nice whatever. It's like take advantage. Like do it. And like that's the power of it too. Is like I'm similar, but not quite as frugal as your father-in-law. Where it's like, oh, we had the best year ever in business. Like let's just keep going to Applebee's once a week or whatever. It's like go get a steak dinner, dude. Like enjoy it. You know, like you're allowed to enjoy. So that's great.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask as well, like when did you open Superhuman Lab? So you were in the yoga business. When did you kind of transition out and like get back into doing what you were doing on the road, but here in Iowa?
2010, I opened the yoga, and then I made the switch. It was like 2000, I think 14, between 14 and 16. I went, we got to do something different. And I think it was 2014, opened Superhuman Lab. Here's another kind of story I haven't told people. But it was like, it's so corny to talk about manifestation because it's so crystals and woo-woo. But I do think you need to direct your mind into a direction because I was so fearful of not teaching yoga because I didn't want to disappoint somebody. And so I said, hey guys, I'm getting back into sports travel. It's unpredictable and therefore I won't be teaching yoga anymore. So I made this proclamation that this is obviously on my plate. I had no single athlete on my plate, not a single one. And then literally within a month of me making that statement, then the Dwight thing came through where it actually did happen. And so sometimes I do think you have to make these like proclamations of this is what I'm going to do and then start just it's just kind of like funny how things start to work in that direction. And there are probably micro decisions that you're making subconsciously and not realizing it. But I'd say like 2014, 15 is when I was like, let's really hammer it. And then from there, it starts to go that direction a bit more. Because at the end of the day, what I do is in my hands. You know, even if I'm teaching you a movement, I'm going to be touching you. Like I'm going to be kind of like hold your knee here and like there and like feel that. Like I'm a big teacher of my hands. Like it's who I am. And again, that's why I never thought there'd be a career that would be like that for me. Like I almost kind of had to manufacture it and make it myself and go, okay, I got to just be in my hands. You know, because I grew up, like I was a real art kid. Like I was really into drawing and charcoal and hand stuff. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I've been doing it since.
What's your typical day in the life look like now? Like, are you seeing 1 or 2 clients a day? Like what's a normal, like busier day look like for you?
Sure. One of my goals is to not have days that are exactly the same. That's just, I don't want the same thing. So depending on the season, it might be, the average day would be, I'll give you this week. This week I go to a lady's house. She's 86 years old. I don't work on geriatric people. I hate even call her geriatric because she's so awesome. I feel like I'm disrespecting her. But I had somebody reach out and go, hey, can you do me a favor and work on this lady? And I just hit it off and went from, she came into the lab to where I was like, I'll just go to your house on the way in because it's just easier. Mm-hmm. But I go to her house on Mondays and Thursdays, and then I usually go to the office afterwards and then I try to see, 3 people. 6 people would be a busy day, but like 3 or 4 is kind of ideal. But yeah, you can get like Fridays, the busy days, you can get in 5 and 6. And then every now and then I'll have like a little travel thing where like maybe during the basketball season, I go up to Iowa City, work on a couple of basketball players, once every other week, I'll do something like that. But yeah, I try to always not make each day feel like the same day. That's kind of I want to have fun at the end of the day.
Sure. Yeah. I love that. So I think it'd be interesting too to learn more about, because you're using your hands all the time. And this is kind of how we first connected, because I've known of you because I think we first met in Chicago during Brett's show. I think it was
Columbus.
Yes, Columbus. Yeah, because you were just like there, like hi, and then
I was supporting Ivana. She's a bodybuilder. Her husband's a bodybuilder, and I was supporting her because she's a client who really blew me up to the local bodybuilding scene in Des Moines, and then introduced me to her husband, Brett, and then
he's competing at the O this year. He's going to the Olympia.
So fucking awesome.
So wild. Yeah.
And so I met you out there.
Yeah. So that's when we first met. I probably should have said that an hour ago when we first started talking. But it's interesting because as we got in, we worked together on some videos and some digital products for you. But the main conversation was around, one, holy crap, we're neighbors. Didn't know that. But number 2 was like, you're putting your hands in on a lot of people, and you can't do that forever. Like you can only see so many people. So when you started thinking about the digital side, what did that look like in terms of like trying to monetize online and grow your social media as well?
Yeah. That's a great question because, I do think about not just my hands actually feel great. I have no hand issues. I've been doing this, I think, for 17 years. I have zero issues in my hands. But at some point, I would like to, I told my wife, I would like in 5 years want to do something else just because I want to live more than one life. If like, while this is my thing and I love it, I don't, again, like it would be extremely hard for me to put this down because I really do enjoy it. But I have a lot of other interests. I'm very passionate about food. I'm very passionate about, I like to create content. I know some people don't. I really enjoy, like when you and I met up, even getting to look at your setup and ask you questions and how you do stuff. I think it's interesting. But I also know the value of content. Again, when I was in business, I had no fucking money. So there's no marketing dollars. So for me, when social media came through going, okay, this is an opportunity that I'm fairly extrovert. So I can get out there and do stuff and hopefully it rakes in something. So really just like free on social media is where I really got into like content building. And again, it is something I do enjoy. I think so many people, I'm 38 in my age range, truly actually do not enjoy it, or they don't want to seem like they enjoy it because it makes them feel very TikTok-y. I just straight up enjoy it. I like the idea of refining it. I like the metrics it gives. Looking at a metric going, now, how can I take that metric and improve upon it? Mm-hmm. I love that aspect of the measurables of it.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting too, because you look at like your business, it'd be very easy for you to just see clients, word of mouth referral. You keep yourself, the only people you ever engage with are your people you're putting your hands on every day and go home and that's it. But it's like when you've embraced technology, social media, that's how you can get more people. Yeah. And I think that's how you get more of your people rather than, like you said, if you just want to focus on athletes, you can just put out that as kind of your attractor and see if you can get more people like that.
And there's things going back I would have done differently. Like, I'll give you an example. When we started creating content, I would have done differently? I would have made the content, put out for free, not charge a dime. Because I think there's a lot of value in attraction and attracting attention and not monetizing just yet. But with that said, I have monetized content and it does help. Like, it's nice to get a check or money for monetizing content because sometimes you have to somehow pay for the content.
Yep.
And that's kind of like in the interim where I'm at now is like, how much do I want to monetize content right now or do I wait to monetize? And, I've done it both ways. I've done it, create a course, it sells that you and I did together. I've taken that same course and been like, let's try it monthly. $10 a month. Let's see how that goes. And it's kind of fun because like it's all testing. Like my thought is, as long as people feel good when they spend money with me and you get the value, great. Then we're going to be okay. And I can kind of play with stuff in different directions. But yeah, either way, if you monetize it or don't, I think in content creation is massive. And I take it for granted sometimes. And then somebody goes, hey, I didn't find you, but my friend recommended you, but they sent me a video of you. They could see the work I do and they will, that's my guy. And it gives you a lot of shortcuts into people's lives going, you know what you're going to get into. I can save the preamble and just get after it. So like even just for how content has created opportunities with athletes, like I even go into it like, yes, I do very like B2B business stuff where I create content for therapists. Because again, I am passionate about helping out people in this career. There's not a lot of great content for us. But also, there's also a secondary effect where athletes have seen it and been like, hey man, are you ever coming to Atlanta? Or hey, when's the next time you're in this town? And you're starting to see opportunities created that wouldn't have been there if you didn't create the content.
Sure. I love that though, because like your approach to content is similar to like Gary Vee, where it's like, just document what you're doing, show your expertise, and just show off like what you're up to, what you're doing. I think that's a really powerful thing because a lot of people are like, well, I want to do content, but what do I do? And it's like, well, just record you doing what you do. Like do a voiceover, do a side-by-side, do a like before and after, like just show what you're doing and people will like it.
Well, let's get into this nits and grits. So like, let's use one that you and I shot together. I took this video and go, I put.
He's looking at his phone if you're listening.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. It's called, so it's a video we did together and I took a snippet of it that is, maybe it's 28 seconds, which I think is kind of long.
Sure.
It's 28 seconds, but it's how to move big athletes. Now I took that same content that was B2B and go, I want this to be, I don't know, what, B2C?
Yeah.
Business to consumer?
Yep. There you go. Look at you.
Look at that. B2B's business to business. B2C is business to consumer. So I just changed the title of it. It's the same video. And then, but if I go to the comment section of it, there's athletes who are tagging other athletes who are professional athletes saying, need this before and after camp, Ryan. Like,
sure. How many views does it have? What metrics are on that post?
Yep. Let's take a look at the metrics.
Because this is on Instagram, right?
Yeah, and this isn't even one of my best ones. This one, I think it's got 30,000.3. If I look at the metrics.
30,000 views?
30,000 views.
Holy shit.
490 likes, 147 saves. I looked at the saves and the shares. 53 shares, 147 saves, 22 comments. So like the vanity metrics of likes, I'm not that interested in. Views, yes, because it shows me the algorithm is rewarding me. The saves because it shows me that people find it valuable. The reshares because people find it valuable. So the metrics I look at is definitely views because the algorithm is either rewarding me or not, and then or the platform, and then really into the comments because that like comments sending it to people, and then the saves because it tells me people actually give a shit about the content.
Sure.
Those are the metrics I look at. And this one got 30,000. And that's not even like the other ones I have now are like 56. I got one that's got 17 million, almost 18 million views on it.
Dude, that is so crazy because, and this is a good parlay into the next topic because you blew up on Instagram in the last 6 months. So where did you start? Probably like January. And where are you at now? Because this is huge value that you just like, 50x'd your following or whatever it was.
Well, I had a goal. And my goal was so I had, I think, 4,600-ish. Like, it's like 46 plus or minus, like, you're not at 4,700 yet. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't remember if I was high or low in it. But I wonder how it would change my business as a test if I got to 50,000. So my goal was to go 6 months to 50,000. And it took me under a month. Now, yeah, do you strike gold a little bit? Yes, but also I don't believe it was all luck because I intentionally did it and it rewarded me.
Sure.
And so the biggest thing I did was realizing that, again, going back to like business, it's not what I want. It's what they want. It's what the algorithm wants. So if I want to be rewarded by the platform, I have to give them what they want. They want content that is shareable to multiple people. So sometimes I think there's times where people go too niche. And so also I created non-negotiables. Like for me, like me putting hands on people, and I'm also married with children. I've seen guys have a lot of success, and even women too, where it's a little too sexual for me. Also, we're Midwest dudes.
Sure.
Or, I grew up with like pretty conservative grandparents.
Well, dude, I see these videos of like chiropractors, and it's the girl in the spandex, and he's got his like elbow in her butt crack, and he's like, breathe in for me. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like no one's watching for the actual treatment. They're just like trying to see some booty.
And also these people I work on are not, most of the time, they're not clients, they're my friends. And they're usually trainers because they're cool with it. But like the amount of content that's been good, I've ditched because I thought maybe I was like, ooh, the angle of the camera kind of put like a little too like maybe butt cheeky or something. And I just delete it. Mm-hmm. I go, I'm not getting it that way. I think it's a terrible way to like ruin relationships with people. It's like, hey, dude, why'd you use that crotch shot of me? I'm like, sorry.
Hey, could you be in a video for me? You have a really nice booty.
But that was my thing. But then also, I also tried to, for me, I actually technically prefer actually using a lot of guys. I try to split it up a little bit, guy to female. Like I'm very intentional with my content. Like I purposely will pick males and females that are kind of the avatar or the hologram of what people want to see themselves as. So I'll use my buddy Bert. My buddy Bert's a massive stud athlete.
Is he the trainer at Lifetime?
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of him.
He's a handsome guy. He's a good friend of mine. He's got great physique. So for him being a good friend of mine, I have no problem, soliciting him.
Bert, come on over.
But he's also, again, if you're an athlete and you see somebody athletic, it's an easy association to make. But anyways, that was one thing I didn't want to do is like exploit like the sexual size of things because I was like, it's a bad reputation, don't want to do it. So that was my non-negotiable. But here's what I figured out. Okay, my problem was I'm making content that's too niche, not enough people care about. People who care about it tend to be more therapists like myself, but it's actually not building me more clients. Shit. So now I need a broader band. So what I started doing is, okay, realizing I need to get outside of niche. So I go, okay, what do I do it can't be so far out that it doesn't make sense. So what I realized is I made videos that are very satisfying, because what I like to watch are food videos. And what I like about it, the lighting, the music, the sounds of like the ASMR stuff, and even the visualization of how they do it, it's always simple. Like very simple. It's not crazy edits always. It's very simple. I did do some timing with edits, but it's very satisfying. So I go, what kind of satisfying video could I make? And so I figured out some of this like anatomy-based stuff, which was like more broader based because people liked it. Everyone that I've made that has really popped has never taken me that long. The ones I've spent so much time editing takes the longest. Mm-hmm. I also realized this, something I learned from Ryan here, jump cuts. Having something that kind of makes people blink. So within the first, my sweet spot was creating videos that were about 14 seconds, I realized. I just looked at the metrics. Roughly 14 seconds, satisfying videos, so I would adjust speed up and down, mostly a little faster so people wouldn't click off it. And I would do a jump cut within the first 4 seconds. So I would find the right timing of sharing stuff because I needed that jump cut, but it had to make sense so that people would kind of stay with it a little bit. The other thing I took advice from was my son, who goes, Dad, you're talking too much on the videos and nobody gives a shit. He didn't say shit, but he's like, nobody cares.
Yeah. And he's 13, so he's a good like person to tap in and be like, well, would you watch this?
And so before I knew what TikTok was, I let him do a TikTok, and he actually has a pretty big following on TikTok, and I don't think he does anymore, but he's pretty good at edits too. Like some of the videos that I've done, he's done all the edits. I hate editing. Mm-hmm. You know how hard it is.
I hate editing too, and it's my profession to do.
Yeah. So I use he turned me on to CapCut.
Yep.
And I think that's the other thing I think is really important is vertical video. Holy shit. So really making videos that are vertical videos, so up and down with your phone, a jump cut within a few seconds, shorter, 14 seconds, and hit that sweet spot of sound, and boom. I had a few videos that just really blew up. And the ones that blew up, it was funny too. There are a lot of anatomy-based ones that were very visually stimulating. Really get massive. Even now, I'm like, now I have it down to where I can tell you if I make a video, I'm like, this will or will not get 10,000. And I've almost always been right.
Sure. I think it's so powerful though, because it sounds like you identified Instagram was what you wanted to grow, and you made a plan to like, I'm going to post however many times a week, whatever your schedule is, and you just did it.
You know what's funny? And even now, I don't even think the content schedule right now at the time of filming this is the biggest thing. I think make good shareable content. Now, I would say it does seem to help a little bit with a little schedule, like some consistency. But I think I would rather have non-consistent good content that's quality, that they deem to be quality, than just consistency. Now, if you can do both, that's next level.
Sure. So where are you at now with your Instagram following? You're like over 50,000 followers now.
Yeah.
So in 1 month, you went from less than 5,000.
And it goes up and down too a little bit, because when you get such a massive follow, when you get 50,000 plus in under a month, I actually screenshotted when it was at its real peak just so I could save the data. You can't look at the vanity metrics. You will lose 100 to, it will sway 200-300 followers all the time, because a lot of these, like, it blew up in like Spanish speaking countries and like Arabic countries. So there's people who now they may like that video, but they see me do like some massage thing. They're like, fuck is this? And they don't want anything to do with it.
Sure.
So you're still going to lose followers at the top end, but right now it's at 56.7 thousand.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
When I know I did a similar thing. So in January, I made a dedication. I'm like, for the next 6 months, I'm going to really focus on vertical video, because I wasn't at the time, and I just wanted to lean into it. So I hired a company that did nothing but vertical video. They add captions, they do it all. So what I did was I would sit down for an hour in a month and record 20 to 30 short form videos.
Yeah.
And just send it to the editing team, and they post it, and it's good to go. So after that, I started like 1,700 followers is what I had. And then after, I had 2 really viral videos go. One has like almost 300,000 views. And it's like how I do short form editing and reformatting for things. It's like a Premiere hack that people can do in editing software. I had so many, influx. Like I couldn't even look at my phone. I'd turn my notifications off for like a day because it was like followers going crazy, comments going crazy. I think it ended up, like I said, 300,000 views on the video. And I have now 7,800 followers. So it's like 7x what it was before. So I can only imagine like going from 5,000 to 50,000. Like your phone is probably blowing up.
Yeah, luckily I have my notifications off. But you check your Instagram and it would be, I mean, it would literally go from, I remember it was like, damn, this is weird because once it got over 10,000, I was like, oh shit, like it'll probably die off. And then you'd check your phone, it would go like 15, 20, 25, 30, and it just kept like massively. I actually turned the comments off because then it turned into this, because it's a video of a hip video. And it turned into like a damn near religious war of like atheists and religious people. And I was like, I can't have this. And I just turned the comments off. I was like, this is too much for me to monitor.
Sure.
But yeah, I think of people, sometimes you have to think about getting outside the niche a little bit just so Instagram will reward you to a broader base at times. And maybe you care, maybe you don't, but I mean, I don't know. It's, again, like living in Iowa, I want omnipresence because I don't like my opportunities being limited by my location. I also don't want to move out of Iowa. So the more people who can know what I do and meet more people, like it just makes sense to me.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. So you get all these followers and stuff. How are you monetizing these people? Because all 50,000 of them can't come show up at your office in Urbandale and be like, can I get a massage?
That's the thing is like some of this is vanity metrics. Like people won't spend money with me just because most of the people won't spend a dime with me, which is fine. So now it's like, do I want to go B2B or B2C? Do I want, I have a course that I work on. Oh, thank you. So I can monetize that a little bit. Right now, I'm actually going back a little bit and getting back in the groove of just making consistent content because I did get into a little rut of when something really blows up going, why would I make content that's anything but this from now on? The problem with that is you got to be yourself. Like I really got too obsessive with it for a minute and I had to realize this shit doesn't matter. Not to say it doesn't, but I had to get in that mind frame of not overvaluing it too. Thinking I must be on brand with me. It's like, I really don't. I need to just be me. At the end of the day, like that's where I win is just being me at my highest level. And so now I get back into like, listen, I don't care if I lose 6,000 followers, 7,000 followers. I've done it once. I can do it again.
Sure.
But now I do want to figure out how to monetize it, And so I'm actually kind of reversing a little bit. I have a course. I'd have a course. And so it went well.
And it's for massage
therapists.
Yep.
Yeah. There is and again, like I get the thing is when things blow up a little bit, I was getting massive questions from massage therapists online. Like most of my inbox was all like chiropractor, physical therapist, manual therapist. I say manual therapist because it encompasses a lot of people. Ask me a ton of questions.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, shit, why don't I just make something? I like making content. We should just make a content that's for these guys. And I've done it, but then it's kind of, you just got to find the sweet spot there. I'm actually really intrigued about going back and really pumping up maybe the YouTube channel, get the free content, get the attraction built up, and then figuring out how I want to monetize that again. And so that's the other thing too, is like, what's my sweet spot? Like right now, I actually closed off. I had a membership. It's like $10 a month. I'm like, what a deal. I closed it. People are in it still, but nobody new can come in because I need to make sure it's great quality. I need to make sure I'm keeping my promise to people, which is you're going to have some good shit. So part of the problem is, I created content and it looks good. So then when I shoot after that, it doesn't look good.
Right. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So now it's like, I hate seeing that quality dip. So now I'm kind of going back into it going, okay, we need to be more intentional with our quality, our quality, but also the content. Like one thing we did that helped is like building stuff on Trello. I'm terribly disorganized. It is very stress relieving to have ideas on a board and you can kind of act upon them however you want, but just to have them out of your head is a massive stress relief. So now I'm going back to throwing ideas on the board. I'll throw some of it in the community. And if it's really like, oh my God, this shit's so next level, I can either resell it as a package, which I'd rather do because this never ending content creation too is like, it's also a lot. When I have people I have to care for and work on, be like, oh shit, I owe it to our community to do 4 videos this month. It's just a lot.
Yep.
And so that's where I like the idea of probably getting back into maybe even bringing extra value to people and finding ways to even do it in a CEU so they can get credit for it too. So that's kind of where I'm at now is reorganizing the content and then also going like, let's also make sure our free content's better than people's paid content. And right now I don't have as much free. And I'm like, well, let's make sure we go back there and do that. Because at the end of the game, I think content is a long-term investment. And it's like you never know what piece could really hit for you and change your life and introduce you to people you wouldn't have been introduced to before. I like that surprise. And it's worked out like that for me before. Like I've had content that has literally got me flown out to places, and I never thought it would. And so that's where I think there's a massive value again, but that's one out of, so many videos you're going to have that go like that. But you have to realize those, what you can consider junk videos or they're non-monetizing videos. You have to have those 10 to get to that one, to get to the one gold one. Mm-hmm. Like you can't just get only gold. It doesn't. I wish it worked like that. It just doesn't.
Sure. Well, and even like with my one little dinky, I call it dinky, viral video, I had 300,000 followers. I had probably 10 interested leads that wanted to do, because the video, my video that popped off, thankfully, was one that was talking about how I do my riffing sessions. I'll do, like I said, I sit down and shoot 30 videos in 1 hour, which is kind of next level for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Explain the whole process. I talk about how I edit it. I did the whole video in less than 60 seconds, like explaining it, just like super sped up. And everyone's like, can you do it for my business? So I'm like, where are you located? Boston. I'm like, sure, we can fly out. We can do it this way. There's one or two that got really serious. And then I had like conversations with 3 or 4 people that ended up in doing like $40 or $50 or $60,000 retainers over the course of a year. And it's like, this is what the power of social media, because yes, 300,000 people saw it, but 3 people were willing to have a conversation about giving $40, $50, $60,000 for a video package. It's like, that's the conversion, where in your case, it's like, okay, you had a couple million views, but it's like, can we get a couple people in the mastermind? Can we get a couple people to buy the course? Can I get some local clients that I can work on for, X amount per hour? It's like, that's the value there. But also on the YouTube side, it's like, you could get monetized views and stuff like that. Like I know we've talked about YouTube a lot over drinks and dinner and stuff like that. It's like, how do we monetize YouTube? Because I have 15,000 followers on YouTube, which is pretty small in comparison to most people.
I also think that's pretty good, because I think it's harder to get a YouTube following than other platforms.
Yeah, if people subscribe on YouTube, they are much more willing to like
100%
go deep with you, pay you money, get on your Patreon, buy your products, buy an affiliate link, whatever. Like
they're raving fans more so.
Yes, where it's like TikTok, I could tell you how many videos that I laughed, got a lot of value from a video on my feed, and just kept swiping. I'm not going to go follow that person.
Right.
There's plenty of times where I've watched, like Almost Friday, and there's a really viral, they have a podcast and a comedy channel. They make it's like podcasts where they'll say like, okay, you're a barber and your name's Jimmy Two Hands and you're trying to cut my hair. And then they like role play it.
Yeah.
I've seen those videos hundreds of times, but I never follow the guys. But then my friends were talking about it, and I'm like, well, I should probably follow them. It's one of those things where on YouTube, if I go and I search how to edit videos better in Adobe Premiere, and I watch a video of mine for 30 minutes, I'm going to subscribe, because I'm like, this dude's got some value, and I want more of that. If I have a problem, I want to find that person and trust him with that.
Who's somebody on social that you like? Because I always like, instead of recreating the wheel, I look at a few like people as kind of like my like mentor and go, I just like the way they do it. Who's somebody you look at on social that you think crushes it and you kind of mimic, or at least like look at their stuff and consider? Does anybody really jump out?
Sure, tons of people. I would say in my niche, one that jumps is Peter McKinnon. He's a YouTuber. I can send you a link later, but he got his huge early thing was he made a couple videos that went super bonkers viral, and he got really big in the photo and video space. But what he did was he merged vlogging, which is like Casey Neistat style, with just super high value production. And then him just, like to your point, being 100% himself. So he's covered in tattoos. He's got long hair. He cusses. He's from Canada. He like flips coins. He was a magician before he became like a photographer or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now he was shooting like the documentary for Blink-182 Rebanded. Like,
I fucking love Blink-182. I'm 38. Dude, Blink-182 is all time. Go ahead.
So he has, I think it's like 10 million followers on YouTube. And he got like Blink-182 saw it, and they're like, dude, can you come shoot a documentary of our tour? So him and his whole crew went. They've gone to like Iceland. They've gone to like Hawaii, Tahiti, wherever. So he makes commercial projects and he'll have a team follow him around, document everything. And then he has like, I mean, he's making like $40,000 or $50,000 a month from just YouTube AdSense.
Wow.
So it's like, he's a really great case study of like just being 100% yourself and unapologetically yourself. But it's like, he drives an old busted up Ford. He got tattoos. Like he just does himself.
Here's why I think it's important to be you, because it's also a stress reliever. If you meet me in person and it's not congruent with who you see online, to me, that's a reputation killer. If I'm just, it is who, like I am who I am regardless of the situation. Now, again, you always want to self-improve. I get it. But in general, it's not some big, massive jump. I don't have to worry. But I think where people can get in real stressful situations is if you completely alter ego, your reality versus your social reality. And then you have to like look around and worry, like, what if somebody sees me, like, let's say maybe you proclaim to be like, let's say you don't drink alcohol and that you're making big like proclamations about alcohol and how bad it is for you. You always will have to look around going, oh shit, did somebody see me? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's
what
like,
a way to live too. And
it's not a way to live. It's too stressful. It's like, I can barely manage one life, let alone two. So that's why I think just from a point is like, yeah, just be you. Like that's, it's funny too, is I really tried to fix certain things about me that I hated, that like, I blink a lot. I clear my throat a lot. It's actually hereditary trait in my family. My brothers and uncles, all the men do it. Curse, my grandfather's massive influence in my life. He cursed so terribly, it rubbed off on me. I wish I didn't, but also I can catch myself that sometimes if I try to, and I am working on a little bit, if I try to stop too much, I lose my train of thought. And then I have to go, I'm sorry, Rank. Oh, shit. I have to think what we were talking about. I hate that. It's like I just got to accept certain pieces of it. And again, I got to try to adjust with who I'm with. If somebody's really like maybe conservative or like very like it's kind of offensive to them, I do try not to. But sometimes I do my best work when I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. And being yourself is so powerful though, because I think that's in a world where people try to conform to do what people want, people are pulled towards authenticity. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast, because I'm like, there's so many people, great people like yourselves, that I'm like, people got to know more about Ryan, because it's like, he is such a cool dude, where it's like the short form game where you're just like 15 seconds or less. I need like loops. I need people to watch this video 4 times to get the likes. I need blah, blah, blah. You watch these stupid like fitness influencers. They're like, here, we're doing a day in my life of a whatever. And the whole time they're just like not even facing the camera. Their butt cheeks are in the video. And it's like, clearly you're just using your ass to get people's attention and it's working. But it's like, okay, they're going to say, okay, girls, this one's a whatever workout. Like all of your followers are 95% male. Right. The second you stop showing your butt, they're all going to unfollow you. Like that's your entire value in the world. Is like, you're just so a thing that people are fixated on. And I think that's the truth, where it's like, people give me shit for putting like my wife and my kid on social media, because they're like, yeah, dude, but you're a videographer, you own a video business. Like you should just do that on your social. I'm like, yeah, but being a dad and a father is like a dad and a husband's a huge part of who I am. Yeah, if I'm out in public, people are going to see me with my kid. It's like, well, I forgot. I don't like, it's part of who I am. You know?
I was going to show you this.
Is it a booty video on Instagram?
No, it's not. Yeah. This is
we'll blur the screen.
This is my search page. All ass. No, it's, that's one thing is like when you get into like those realms of like, I have 51.3% female and 48 point whatever men, 48.6. I'm actually kind of proud of that, because yes, again, if you have a big following and it's all just based on maybe your looks or something that you're sexualizing, because it's so big on social media, like to sexualize stuff, to not sexualize content and still win, I think is pretty fucking awesome. I have a friend who her name's Jess, J. Kurt Bodywork. She's a very pretty lady, but she does not sexualize work, in my opinion, and is crushing it. I think she does, like I did the math, she's easily got to be doing $8-10 grand a month in her mastermind, doing an awesome job. It's like, no, but the reason why I bring that up is because people think I have to do this to be successful in this kind of attention grabbing thing. It's like, you really don't. You can win on your own terms. You just have to look at the behavior the algorithms want to reward, who you are, and figure out your rhythm, and test, retest, and adjust. Like, you don't have to do that thing. There's so many dope videos out there that are not sexualized that you can win with. And I hate when, like, I actually see sometimes, like, I see people not winning in their industry, and then they start to do that and it gets better, well, you're only going to be more likely to do more of that. We're guys, so it's not as, I mean, trust me, this shirt comes off, it ain't going to get more views.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting because like in this world of like OnlyFans and sexualizing content to make money, like I remember this one girl I saw on TikTok, she was putting like, yeah, I launched a OnlyFans and now I'm making like $5,000 a month or $4,000 a month, whatever. She was acting like her life was made. And I'm like, just go get a full-time job. You don't get to get naked and sell your soul for it. I'm like,
I kind of sometimes respect the hustle because it's got to be, put yourself out there like that. I don't know. I have a pretty eclectic friend group. And
where's this going?
Well, I have clients who do OnlyFans.
Okay.
And sometimes the ones I give respect to who actually, when you look at their business plan, they have a plan, they have a amount, and they really they could teach you stuff on business. I get massive respect for that. The ones I feel, I just kind of go, oh, fuck, girl, like this ain't it.
Yeah.
When I see that they're doing their thing, it's not working, and they switch and go, well, then I must do this. And it's like, you don't. You just need to tweak your algorithm. You just need to tweak what you're doing and make that work, but you don't have to do that. And you can tell like that wasn't the first plan.
Yep.
It's like that backup, and I'm like, damn, like, and also, and I got 2 kids, so I'm thinking about their futures of like, what is their future going to be like through time, and how are they going to win this world? Yeah, I don't want it to just solely be one thing, which is just like centralized content.
Yeah. Well, and not to say that I'm bashing on people that do OnlyFans, but
I'm fucking giving a hard time. But
go ahead. To your point, like I've had conversations with people that are doing that, and they think that's the only option, and I'm like, you realize you could just start a legit business, like brick and mortar,
100%.
Online service business. Like you could make 6 figures a year and not have to sell your soul because people aren't happy doing this. They think it's the only option. And I'm like,
that sucks.
There's other things to do. You just gotta get smart with it. Learn what to do.
Well, and that's where it's like, I would love to like have another business, because through owning a business, I've learned so much. I would love to jump in another industry and do other stuff because I think it'd be fun to do.
No, absolutely. Wonderful. So, okay, moving on here. So you have the membership site, like the people that are in there, you've closed it off. How many people are in there? Is there like hundreds of people, a handful, like 10, 20? How many people?
I got 2 waves. I sold the course first. And so here's what I did. My theory is, if you spend money with me, I want you to always be happy you spent money with me. So the people who bought the course on the first wave, they're grandfathered into the mastermind for a year. So when I make new content and do this stuff, they also get some of that. That's just like added value for them to be early adopters. Then the $10 group month, gosh, how many do we have in there? I don't know how many I have in there, but I do know this. I have on my my bank account, it says like PayPal, or like it's my Stripe account for Kajabi, which is the platform I use. When it hits like, when I see it residual, like, oh, I'm seeing like $400 or $500 like trickling here and there. It's not massive. I'll tell you that. It's not 100 people.
Sure.
I don't think. It could be. I don't even have that number. When I see like, oh, we're getting $400 or $500 here and there, like trickling in, then I'm like, okay, this is kind of going good. The big reason why I close is because I want to make sure that we can give people the promise of we're going to crush this and make good content. I don't know for how long I can make killer content in this industry. It might be forever, and I can always open it back up. If I open it up, though, I'm raising the price. So I do think price tells a story. When I charged, the reason why I charged my $140 for my day-to-day is because there's people in town charging $140, and I said, what separates me and them? They work hard, I work hard. They do con ed, I do con ed. They have experience, I have experience. And there's times I'm like, not to toot my own horn, but like I have a pretty decent resume, and I've really added to my career. I can do it. And even when it went bad, I remember the real kind of tearjerker moment for me a little bit was my wife goes, I think we messed up. I should bring it back. Maybe 125. She goes, you can charge less. My wife works in tech, and she really is. I'm not saying it's because I'm married. She truly is brilliant. Like, I think her bosses would tell you she's brilliant. Like, she's very financially savvy. She's got balls. Like, she's very straightforward. She goes, you can charge less, but you will always be charging less than you're worth. And I went, I'm dying on this hill. And
Put that on a bumper sticker, dude. That's great.
Yeah, and she just said that one time, and I said, okay. And I said, we're not changing the price. And guess what? It worked out just fine.
Sure.
But going back to the mastermind, that's where I thought, okay, we're at $10 a month. I want to close that window to make sure we can add value to the people who are in there. But also, I do think we made some pretty kick-ass videos. Like the videos you and I did, like when I look at what's out there, I think we made some good production values. And there's a lot of good lessons in there. And I want to continue to do that. I think it's worth more than $10 a month.
Sure.
So I'm going to close that window, and then either I'll bump it up or I'll sell it as a single course.
Sure.
But yeah,
well, especially like the mastermind stuff, it's like if you could charge it for 10, you could easily charge 20. If you could charge 20, you could probably do 30. Like the cutoff for most people is like $50 like a month. That would probably like, and even as a business expense, it's like the amount of stuff I pay $50 a month for in my business that I forget about that I even do. It's like that's part of it too.
I actually think 10 was so low that it actually devalues enough that people don't care.
Yeah.
I think you can be too low and people don't care. It's like, or it becomes like, I'll get to it things. I mean, the things I pay more for, I pay attention to.
Yeah.
So I'd say price makes people pay attention.
Yeah. Same thing with education. Like I can put a bunch of free content out on YouTube. Nobody cares. I can put it in a gated course. And then all the people are like, if they pay attention. That's really what it comes down to is like, if I'm putting money into this, I'm going to definitely like take notes. I'm going to do the whole thing. Or if it's just on YouTube, it's like, there's no value to it because it was free. It's like anybody could look at it. So that's part of it too.
Well, and I do stuff like there's gated payments that I pay for. And that's the other thing too. Like these are write-offs. So like, yeah, I have like communities that I'm into on like Substack or wherever it might be that I pay in a year, or I pay like $200-300 here and there because I want that information. You know, I want access to information so I can justify also like I charge more because I'm constantly in self-education. You know, I'm following the who's who, you know.
No, I love that. So, okay, where can, I guess, final thoughts to kind of tie it all together.
Yeah, tie it up.
What advice would you have for someone that is in the massage therapy world? They're like burnt out. They're working for someone else. What advice would you give somebody that to know the value of the industry and where they can make money?
As a massage therapist?
As a massage therapist. If someone's listening to this and they're in the massage industry.
Stop working for chiropractors most of the time. With the caveat, I work for chiropractors and they treat me pretty well. They really like the cost ratio they gave me, I could live off of. I know people who still work for them. I know therapists who are making over $100,000 a year, who are making $80,000, $90,000 a year. That's pretty decent. So it is possible. I would say that is an outlier. Most of the time, if you work for a gym, a chiropractor, a massage therapist, they're using you to offset their cost or you're an additive to enhance their thing. Not shitting on people, but like it truly is like I watch out for my own a little bit. And as a massage therapist, I would watch out for that. If you're not getting, you can't work on 7-8 people a day for $20. You will be burnt out. It's not enough. People do the math and go, well, that's, $20 times 8, what's that, $160? Wow, that's good money. Yeah, but do that every day. You can't afford to do it. You have to have enough buffer to pay for your rest. It's a manual labor job. So that would be my first thing. That's maybe a little controversial point is stop working for people who are looking at your service as an additive, and nobody's gonna care more about your business than you. That would be the first thing. Second thing would be if you can't find a good mentor, spend on the con ed. Like an average con ed for me is $1,500 for the course. I paid $2,000 for a course. So when people are like, man, $150 seems like a lot, to me, that's crazy. And I'm happy to pay that because it actually I took a course called Functional Range Systems. It's done, if I'm being honest, it's done a ton for me. It really has. The connections I've made there, them sharing my stuff on their social media and introducing me to people, having it give me a format. It was massive. I spent a lot of money. Like if you had the travel in, I've easily spent $10,000. I've taken every course they pretty much have.
Yeah.
So yeah, invest in your craft would how I'd sum it up. Invest in yourself, invest in your craft, and then really never take for granted personal development. I always thought there's so much time I can just be a junkie and reading it, just read it and listen to it, and you have to apply it. But when I go back to my most successful points, I'm always listening to things or reading things that are highly motivational. Ed Milet, that's my boy.
Ed talks real deep.
Yeah. All stuff like that. It really does motivate me on those days of like, oh yeah, this is a purpose-driven thing I'm doing. It's not just a job anymore. This is something I'm passionate about. And sometimes I have to constantly update that.
Love that. Love that. All right, man. Well, we could talk forever.
We'd probably be here forever.
I think this would be a good place to put a pin in it. Where can people find you if they're looking for a local therapist, but also where can they find you online?
Yeah. Easiest thing would be on the Soch. I just use my name. It's at Ryan Esdohr, and Esdohr is ESDOHR, or my website's superhumanlab.com.
Perfect, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I think there's a lot of value people can glean from this, whether it's if they're a therapist, if they're trying to get big on social, if they're trying to monetize a brick and mortar business. I think there's a lot of value that you brought. So thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. If you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast, my name is Ryan Esdohr. It Rhymes with Odd, and we'll see you in the next show. Peace.